The knock came at 11:47 p.m., 3 sharp raps that cut through the silence of my studio apartment like gunshots. I froze with my toothbrush halfway to my mouth, foam gathering at the corner of my lips as I stared at my bathroom mirror. Nobody knocked on my door this late. Nobody knocked on my door at all anymore. Not since Marcus left. I spat into the sink and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, my heart already threading itself into an anxious knot. Through the peephole, I could make out 2 figures in expensive suits. The hallway light caught on polished dress shoes and the glint of something metallic at one man's hip. Iris Caldwell? Iris Caldwell? The voice was smooth, professional, utterly devoid of warmth. My throat went dry. Who's asking? Representatives of Mr. Konstantin Volkov. We need to discuss a financial matter involving Marcus Chen. Marcus. Of course it was about Marcus. I pressed my forehead against the door, closing my eyes. 3 months since he'd disappeared with $40,000 from our joint savings account, leaving nothing but a note that said I'm sorry in his cramped handwriting. 3 months of dodging calls from creditors, learning that the man I'd planned to marry had borrowed money from everyone, banks, loan sharks, apparently even people who sent men in Italian suits to your door at midnight. I don't know where he is, I said through the wood. We know. Open the door, Miss Caldwell. We're not here to hurt you. The yet hung unspoken in the air between us. My fingers trembled as I undid the chain lock. The door swung open to reveal 2 men who looked like they'd stepped out of a crime film, perfectly tailored suits. Hard eyes, faces that had seen things I couldn't imagine. Behind them stood a 3rd figure, partially obscured by shadow. May we come in? The first man asked, though it wasn't really a question. They filed into my tiny apartment, dwarfing the space with their presence. The scent of expensive cologne mixed with something darker, gunpowder, maybe, or the metallic tang of violence waiting to happen. I wrapped my cardigan tighter around myself, suddenly aware that I was wearing pajama shorts and an old college t-shirt. The 3rd man stepped into the light. My breath caught. He was younger than I'd expected, mid-30s, maybe with sharp Slavic features and ice blue eyes that seemed to catalog everything about me in a single sweep. Dark hair pushed back from his forehead, a jaw that could cut glass, and a scar that ran from his left eyebrow into his hairline. He wore all black shirt, black trousers, black coat that probably cost more than my car. He was the most dangerous-looking person I'd ever seen. Miss Caldwell. His accent was faint, cultured, Russian around the edges. I am Konstantin Volkov. He extended his hand. I stared at it for a moment too long before shaking it. His grip was firm, warm, and sent an unwelcome jolt up my arm. Your fiancé owes me $200,000, he said, releasing my hand. Plus interest. The number hit me like a physical blow. 200. I couldn't finish the sentence. I don't have that kind of money. I'm a graphic designer. I make websites for small businesses. I can barely afford this apartment. I know exactly what you make, Miss Caldwell. $42,000 annually. Freelance contracts with 7 regular clients. Student loan debt of $68,000. He moved through my apartment like he owned it, examining the framed concert posters on my walls, the stack of design books on my coffee table. Marcus also cleaned out your savings account before he left. Very considerate of him. Anger flared hot in my chest. If you know all that, then you know I can't pay you. No, Konstantin agreed, turning to face me. You can't. The 2 other men positioned themselves by my door. Not blocking it exactly, but making it very clear I wasn't leaving until this conversation reached its conclusion. Then why? Are you here? I demanded, trying to inject steel into my voice despite the fear crawling up my spine. Konstantin's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. Because Marcus left you holding his debts. The lease on this apartment? In both your names. The credit cards he maxed out? You're a co-signer. When people borrow from me and disappear, I collect from whoever remains. That's insane. I didn't borrow anything from you. The law disagrees. He pulled a folder from inside his coat and set it on my counter. Your signature is on several documents guaranteeing Marcus's loans. Legitimate on paper, though I suspect he forged them. Still, binding. I grabbed the folder with shaking hands, flipping through pages of loan agreements, contracts, all bearing what looked like my signature. Sophisticated forgeries. Marcus had always been good with his hands, artistic in ways I'd once found charming. Now it felt like a noose tightening around my neck. I'll go to the police, I said, but even I could hear how hollow it sounded. Konstantin tilted his head, studying me with those unsettling blue eyes. And tell them what? That you're involved with loan agreements from a man they'll label a criminal financier? That you want them to investigate debts you legally owe? Miss Caldwell, the police won't help you. They'll make your life infinitely worse. He was right. I knew he was right. What do you want from me? I whispered. He took a step closer, then another, until I could smell his cologne, cedar, and something crisp, expensive. Until I could see the flecks of silver in his blue eyes, and the way his scar pulled slightly when he spoke. Marcus left you, Constantine said softly, almost intimately. He abandoned you with his debts, his lies, his mess. He treated you like something disposable. His hand came up slowly, giving me time to pull away, and touched a strand of my dark hair that had fallen across my cheek. He tucked it behind my ear with surprising porting. Gentleness. Perfect, he murmured, his voice dropping to something darker, more possessive. You're mine instead. The words sent ice and fire through my veins simultaneously. What does that mean? I managed. Constantine's smile was all predator now. It means, Miss Caldwell, that you're going to work off Marcus's debt. You're going to do exactly what I tell you, when I tell you, until every penny is accounted for. He paused, his fingers still lingering near my face. Or I can have my associates here encourage you more. Physically. Your choice. My apartment felt like it was closing in, the walls pressing closer with each heartbeat. How long? I asked. As long as it takes. His eyes held mine, and I saw something flicker there beneath the ice. Something hungry and wholly inappropriate for a conversation about debt collection. It made my skin prickle with awareness I didn't want to name. I need an answer, Iris. The sound of my first name in his accented voice did something. Strange to my stomach. I thought about running, about screaming, about all the ways this could end badly. But looking at Konstantin Volkov's face, I knew with absolute certainty that he'd find me anywhere I went. That running would only make things worse. Fine, I breathed. I'll work for you. His smile widened fractionally. Good girl. He stepped back, and I could breathe again. My driver will pick you up tomorrow at noon. Bring nothing. Wear something nice. He moved toward the door, his men falling into step behind him. At the threshold, he paused and looked back at me over his shoulder. And Iris? Don't even think about running. I don't chase. I simply eliminate obstacles. The door closed behind them with a soft click. I stood frozen in my apartment, trembling, my mind racing through everything that had just happened. Through the window, I watched a black Mercedes pull away from the curb, its taillights bleeding red into the wet street. Somewhere in this city, Marcus was, hiding, oblivious or uncaring that he'd just sold me to a monster. And somewhere deeper, in a place I didn't want to examine, a treacherous part of me remembered the heat of Constantine's fingers against my skin. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Konstantin Volkov's face, those ice chip eyes, that cruel mouth, the casual way he'd touched my hair like he already owned me, which, legally speaking through forged documents and criminal leverage, he apparently did. At 6 a.m., I gave up and made coffee with shaking hands. My phone sat on the counter like a live grenade. I'd spent hours last night searching for Konstantin Volkov online, finding almost nothing. A few mentions in business journals about real estate acquisitions. A grainy photo from a charity gala where he stood in the background, face turned away from the camera. The absence of information told me everything I needed to know. People who could scrub themselves from the internet had resources I couldn't comprehend. By 11:30, I'd changed outfits 4 times, finally settling on a navy blue dress that felt professional without being provocative. My hands wouldn't stop trembling as I applied lipstick. The woman in the mirror looked pale, frightened. Nothing like the person I'd been 3 months ago when my biggest worry was whether Marcus and I should get married in spring or fall. The knock came at exactly noon. A different man this time, older, with kind eyes and a chauffeur's cap. Miss Caldwell? I'm Dmitri. Mr. Volkov sent me. The Mercedes was sleek, black, obscenely expensive. Dmitri opened the back door for me, and I slid into leather seats that probably cost more than my entire apartment's furniture. The interior smelled like luxury, that particular scent of wealth that I'd only ever experienced in high-end boutiques I couldn't afford. We drove through downtown Seattle, the Space Needle rising in the distance against gray November clouds. But instead of heading toward the industrial areas where I imagined mobsters conducted business, Dmitri navigated toward the financial district. We stopped in front of a glass skyscraper that gleamed like a shard of ice piercing the sky. "The penthouse," Dmitri said, gesturing toward the building. "Mr. Volkov is expecting you." My legs felt weak as I crossed the marble lobby. A security guard waved me through to a private elevator that required a keycard. The ride up was silent except for the thundering of my own heartbeat. 47 floors, each one taking me higher into Konstantin's world. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse that stole my breath. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the entire city, Puget Sound stretching gray and restless beyond. The space was immaculate, minimalist furniture in blacks and whites, abstract art on the walls, everything sharp angles and clean lines. It felt like a showroom, beautiful and utterly impersonal. Konstantin stood by the windows, backlit by the watery November light. He'd changed into a charcoal suit that fit him like a second skin, his hands in his pockets as he surveyed his kingdom below. "Punctual," he said without turning. "I appreciate that." I stayed near the elevator, my purse clutched like a shield. "You didn't give me much choice." He turned then, and the full force of his attention hit me like a physical thing. In daylight, he was even more striking and more dangerous. The scar on his face seemed more prominent, a reminder of violence survived. "Come here, Iris." It wasn't a request. I forced my feet to move across the polished concrete floor until I stood a few feet from him, close enough to see the way his eyes tracked my movement, cataloging details with the precision of a predator. "Do you know what I do?" he asked. "You loan money to desperate people and ruin their lives when they can't pay." His lips twitched. "That's one interpretation. Inaccurate, but colorful." He gestured to a leather sofa. "Sit. I'll explain. Your situation." I sat, and he moved to a bar cart, pouring amber liquid into 2 glasses. He offered me one. I didn't take it. "Suit yourself." He took a sip, never breaking eye contact. "I invest in businesses, legitimate ones. Restaurants, tech startups, real estate developments. I provide capital when banks won't. Sometimes those investments fail. When they do, I collect what I'm owed. With threats and intimidation. With consequences," he corrected. "Marcus came to me 6 months ago. He wanted to start a cryptocurrency trading platform. Ambitious, stupid. I gave him $200,000 with clear terms. He had 1 year to show profit or return the principal with interest. 6 months ago, when Marcus and I were still happy, still planning our future, when I had no idea he was gambling with borrowed money. He spent 3 months burning through capital on cocaine and escort services," Konstantin continued, his voice flat. "When I confronted him, he promised to repay me using your shared savings. Then he cleaned out your account and vanished." The words landed like stones in my chest. "How do you know about the cocaine and—" "I know everything about people who owe me money, Iris. It's how I survive." He set his glass down and moved closer, sitting on the coffee table directly in front of me. "Too close. Marcus destroyed you financially and emotionally, then left you to face the consequences. So now you work for me until his debt is satisfied." "Doing what?" I demanded. "I'm not a criminal. I don't know anything about your world." "No," he agreed, "but you're a graphic designer. You understand branding, digital presence, visual communication." He pulled out a tablet and handed it to me. "I'm acquiring a hotel chain, 12 properties across the Pacific Northwest. They need complete rebranding websites, logos, marketing materials, everything." I stared at the tablet, at the mock-ups of luxury hotels on the screen. This was actual work, legitimate work. "You're hiring me as a designer? I'm putting your skills to use." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, close enough that I could smell cedar again. "You'll work from here, in my penthouse. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. You'll have access to whatever resources you need. In exchange, I'll deduct a portion of Marcus's debt each month." "How much of a portion?" $5,000 monthly. At that rate, you'll be free in approximately 3 years. 3 years. The number crushed the air from my lungs. "That's impossible. I can't." "You can, and you will." His voice hardened. "Unless you'd prefer I exercise other collection methods. I know several men who would pay handsomely for a woman with your particular qualities." The threat hung between us, ugly and explicit. "You're a monster," I whispered. "Yes," he agreed simply. "But I'm a monster who's offering you a job instead of selling you. Count your blessings, Iris." He stood, towering over me. "Your workspace is through that door. Dmitri will bring you lunch at 1. You'll work until 6, then he'll drive you home. Tomorrow, same schedule." Do you understand? I wanted to throw the tablet at his face. I wanted to run. Instead, I nodded, hating myself for the submission. Good. He checked his watch, something platinum and probably worth more than my car. I have a meeting. Make yourself comfortable. And Iris? I looked up at him. Don't disappoint me. I don't tolerate failure. He walked toward the elevator, his footsteps echoing on the concrete. Just before the doors closed, he looked back at me one last time, his expression unreadable. Then he was gone, and I was alone in a glass tower above the city, working for a man who held my life in his perfectly manicured hands. I looked down at the tablet, at the hotel mock-ups, waiting for my creative touch. 3 years, God help me. I opened the design software and started to work. The workspace Constantine had provided was obscene. A wall of windows, overlooking Elliott Bay. A custom desk with 3 monitors, a top-of-the-line computer, professional design software I'd only ever pirated before, shelves stocked with art books, Pantone guides, every tool a designer could dream of. There was even an espresso machine in the corner, the kind that cost $5,000. It felt like a beautiful cage. I worked mechanically through that first day, creating preliminary logos for the Cascade Hotel Group. My fingers moved across the graphics tablet with practiced ease, but my mind kept drifting to the locked door at the far end of the penthouse. I'd noticed it immediately, heavy wood, different from the other doors, with a keypad lock that glowed red. In a space this open and minimalist, that locked door stood out like a secret waiting to be discovered. At 1 o'clock, Dimitri arrived with lunch from a restaurant I recognized from glowing reviews I'd never been able to afford. Seared salmon, roasted vegetables, artisan bread. I ate, without tasting it, too aware of the locked door's presence. "What's through there?" I asked Dimitri, gesturing with my fork. His kind face shuddered immediately. "Mr. Volkov's private study. No one enters without permission." The careful phrasing told me everything. People had probably tried. Dimitri collected my plates and left me alone again. Through the windows, Seattle spread out below like a game board. Somewhere down there, people lived normal lives, went to normal jobs, came home to normal apartments, loved people who didn't abandon them to criminals. I used to be one of those people. At 6 o'clock exactly, Constantine returned. I heard the elevator before I saw him, that soft chime announcing his arrival. He moved through the penthouse like a storm system, bringing tension and electricity with him. He'd loosened his tie, and there was something harder in his expression than this morning, like whatever meeting he'd attended had sharpened all his edges. "How was your first day?" he asked, pouring himself vodka from the bar. "Productive." I showed him the logo concepts on the monitor. 3 directions for the rebrand. One classic and elegant, one modern minimalist, one that bridges both. He moved behind my chair, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from his body. His cologne mixed with something else now, cigarette smoke, faint and acrid. He leaned down, studying the designs, his face inches from mine. "This one," he said, pointing to the modern concept. "Develop it further." His proximity made my skin prickle with awareness. I resented. I rolled my chair forward slightly, putting distance between us. He noticed. His mouth curved fractionally. "You're afraid of me," he observed. "Wouldn't you be? If someone showed up at your door and turned your life into indentured servitude? Probably." He moved to the windows, silhouetted against the darkening sky. "Fear is rational, smart even, but it won't make the next 3 years any easier. Nothing could make this easier." He was quiet for a moment, studying the city lights beginning to flicker below. "Marcus really did a number on you, didn't he?" The sudden shift in tone caught me off guard. There was something almost contemplative in his voice, less monster and more human. "He made me believe in something that wasn't real," I said quietly. "That's worse than the money." "Love is expensive," Constantine said. "In my experience, it costs more than any debt." I looked at him sharply. "You don't seem like someone who believes in love." "I don't." He turned from the window, his ice blue eyes finding mine. "I believe in possession, loyalty, control. Love is just another word for temporary insanity that inevitably ends in betrayal. That's bleak. That's realistic." He finished his vodka and set the glass down with a soft click. "Go home, Iris. Dimitri's waiting." I gathered my things, grateful to escape the strange tension that had built in the room. At the elevator, I paused. "That locked door," I said. "What's really in there?" Constantine's expression went arctic. "Nothing that concerns you. Everything in this penthouse concerns me now. You made sure of that. For a long moment, he just stared at me, and I wondered if I'd pushed too far. Then something shifted in his face. Not quite amusement, but close. Careful, Iris. Curiosity is dangerous in my world. I'm already in your world. You put me here. True. He moved closer, each step deliberate. But there are levels to this world. Rooms you don't want to enter. Truths you don't want to know. He stopped just in front of me. That door stays locked for your protection, not mine. I don't believe you. You should. His hand came up, and I froze as he touched my chin, tilting my face toward his. His fingers were warm, firm, utterly controlled. You have no idea what I'm capable of, Iris. What I've done. What that room represents. Be grateful for your ignorance. My heart hammered against my ribs. Are you threatening me? No. His thumb brushed across my lower lip. So quick I almost thought I'd imagined it. I'm warning you. There's a difference. He released me and stepped back, the moment breaking like glass. Good night, Iris. The elevator ride down felt like descending from another planet. Dimitri drove me home through evening traffic, and I stared out the window, my mind replaying that moment when Constantine had touched my face. It should have terrified me. It did terrify me. But there was something else beneath the fear, something electric and unwanted that made my skin feel too tight. Back in my apartment, I poured wine I couldn't afford and Googled Konstantin Volkov again. This time I added different search terms. Russian Mafia, Seattle. Organized crime, Pacific Northwest. Volkov family. I found a news article from 8 years ago about a triple homicide at a shipping warehouse. 3 men, execution style. 1 witness who'd recanted their testimony after their house mysteriously burned down. The case had gone cold. In the comments section, someone had written, Volkov sends a message. They always do. I closed my laptop before I could fall further down that rabbit hole. That night, I dreamed of locked doors and ice blue eyes. And when I woke up at 3 a.m., my heart racing, I couldn't tell if it was from fear or something far more dangerous. The second week, I noticed I was being followed. Nothing obvious, no black SUVs idling on my street, or men in sunglasses trailing 10 feet behind me. But I'd catch glimpses. A gray sedan that appeared too often. The same woman in a red coat at 3 different coffee shops. Faces that lingered too long in my peripheral vision. Constantine was having me watched. I confronted him on Thursday, storming into the penthouse with more anger than sense. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Russian, but he held up one finger and finished his conversation before acknowledging me. You have people following me, I said, without preamble. Of course I do. He poured himself coffee from the French press, utterly unconcerned. You're a liability until I determine otherwise. A liability? I'm designing hotel logos. You're also connected to a man who stole from me and disappeared. For all I know, you're in contact with Marcus, helping him hide. His eyes cut to mine. Are you? No, I told you I don't know where he is. Your phone records support that. So does the surveillance. He took a sip of coffee. But verification requires evidence, Iris. I don't operate on trust. I wanted to scream. This is insane. I'm not a criminal. You're adjacent to criminality. Close enough. He set down his cup and moved around the desk toward me. The surveillance isn't negotiable. Accept it, or I'll find other ways to ensure your compliance. You mean more threats? I mean consequences. He was close now. Too close. You seem to think I'm some kind of villain in your personal drama. I'm not. I'm a businessman, collecting a legitimate debt through the only means available. If that makes me cruel in your eyes, so be it. You threatened to sell me to motivate you, he interrupted. And it worked. You're here. You're working. The system functions. His head tilted slightly. Unless you'd prefer I actually follow through? Fear spiked cold through my veins. No. Then we understand each other. He stepped back, returning to his desk. The surveillance continues. Adjust to it. I worked in furious silence the rest of that day, pouring my anger into designs that were probably too aggressive for luxury hotels. But by the time Dimitri drove me home, I'd settled into a cold acceptance. This was my life now. Watched, controlled, owned. The following Tuesday, everything changed. I was working on the website mock-ups when Constantine's phone rang. I heard him answer in the study he used for calls, his voice low and tense. Then there was silence. a long, stretching silence that made the hair on my arms stand up. When he emerged, his face was a mask of ice. "Pack your things," he said tersely. "You're leaving. Now." "What? Why?" "Someone just tried to kill one of my associates. The shooter is still loose. Until we know if this was targeted or random, you're not safe here." My blood went cold. "You said I was designing hotels. You said this was legitimate?" "It is, but I have enemies, Iris. People who know that hurting those around me is effective leverage." He grabbed his coat, his movements sharp and controlled. "You've been seen entering this building for 2 weeks. If someone's watching my operation, you're a target now. This couldn't be happening. This was supposed to be graphic design, not gang warfare." "I want to go home," I said, hating how my voice shook. "Your home isn't secure. You're coming with me." He was already pulling me toward the elevator, his hand an iron grip on my arm. "Where?" "Somewhere safe." The Mercedes was waiting, engine running. Dimitri drove, with controlled urgency through Seattle streets, while Konstantin made rapid phone calls in Russian. I caught words I didn't understand, but the tone was universal danger, damage control, retribution. We drove for 40 minutes, leaving the city behind for the dark ribbon of highway cutting through pine forests. Finally, we turned onto a private road that wound up through the trees. The house that appeared was nothing like Konstantin's minimalist penthouse. It was a fortress, stone and timber, perched on a cliff overlooking the sound. Security cameras visible at every corner. High fence, gate that closed behind us with an ominous clang. Through the windows, I could see warm light, a fireplace, furniture that looked lived in, rather than decorative. "What is this place?" I asked as Dimitri parked. "Somewhere no one will find you." Konstantin got out and came around to my door, opening it himself. "Come." Inside, the house smelled of wood smoke and pine. A woman appeared, late 50s, gray hair in a bun, kind face etched with concern. "Konstantin," she said warmly, then switched to Russian. He responded in the same language, gesturing to me. The woman's expression softened further. "This is Galina," Konstantin told me. "She manages the property. She'll show you to your room." "How long am I staying here?" "Until I'm certain the threat is contained." His phone buzzed. He checked it, his jaw tightening. "Excuse me." He disappeared into another room, already answering the call. Galina smiled at me sympathetically and led me upstairs to a bedroom that was surprisingly cozy. 4-poster bed, windows overlooking the forest, a bathroom with a clawfoot tub. "You're safe here," Galina said in accented English. "Mr. Volkov protects what's his." "What's his?" The words echoed after she left me alone. I sat on the bed, my hands shaking. Less than 3 weeks ago, my biggest problem was a broken heart and empty savings account. Now I was in hiding from people who tried to kill, Konstantin's associates. Now I was property being secured. Through the walls I could hear Konstantin's voice, still on the phone. Even muffled, I could hear the deadly calm in his tone. This was who he really was. Not the cold businessman in expensive suits, but something older and more primal. Something that dealt in blood and survival. And I was trapped in his world now, whether I liked it or not. I walked to the window and looked out at the dark forest. The distant lights of Seattle barely visible across the water. Somewhere out there, someone wanted to hurt Konstantin Volkov. And I'd just become collateral damage. 3 days passed in the safe house. 3 days of forced proximity, of seeing Konstantin in ways I'd never expected. He worked from the house, conducting business on encrypted calls, his laptop always open on the dining table. But here, away from the glass tower and tailored suits, he was different, rougher, more real. He wore dark jeans and fitted sweaters instead of 3-piece suits. Went barefoot on the hardwood floors, cooked breakfast himself. Not extravagant meals, just eggs and toast. Coffee strong enough to strip paint. I'd catch him staring out the windows at the forest. A cigarette between his fingers, his expression unguarded in ways it never was in the city. He looked younger, more dangerous, more human. On the 3rd night, I couldn't sleep. The house was too quiet, the forest too dark, my mind too full of what-ifs. I found myself wandering downstairs at 2 a.m., seeking water, seeking anything to quiet my thoughts. Konstantin was in the living room, silhouetted by firelight. "Can't sleep?" he asked without turning. "How did you know it was me?" Galina's footsteps are heavier. The security team doesn't use the main house. He gestured to the sofa across from him. Sit if you want. I should have gone back upstairs. Instead, I sat, tucking my legs under myself and pulling the blanket from the sofa around my shoulders. The fire crackled, between us casting dancing shadows across Constantine's face. Your associate, I said quietly. The one who was shot. Did they survive? Yes. He'll recover. Constantine took a drink from the glass in his hand. Vodka. Probably. The shooter was after him specifically. Old grudge from Moscow. Nothing to do with my current operations. So I'm safe? This was all unnecessary? No. His eyes found mine across the flames. Once you're seen with me, you're never truly safe again. That's the price of proximity to my world. I didn't choose this world. No. He agreed. Marcus chose it for you, but you're in it now. He set down his glass. Tell me about him. The real him, not the version who forged documents and stole money. The request surprised me. Constantine didn't seem like someone who cared about emotional histories. Why do you want to know? Why? Because I'm trying to understand what kind of man inspires loyalty that outlasts betrayal. His head tilted. You're angry at Marcus. I can see it. But there's something else underneath. You haven't let go yet. The observation cut deeper than I expected. We were together 4 years, I said, staring into the fire. He was charming, creative. We met at a gallery opening. He was showing his photography. I was there with friends. He made me laugh. Made me feel like I was the most interesting person in the room. I pulled the blanket tighter. For 3 years, it was good. Really good. Then something changed. He got distant. Started taking weird jobs, disappearing for days. I thought maybe he was cheating. You wish it had been that simple. Yes. The word came out bitter. An affair I could have understood. But this, gambling away our future, borrowing from people like you, forging my signature. It feels like I never knew him at all. Constantine was quiet for a long moment. You knew him, just not all of him. People are layered, Iris. We show different versions to different audiences. What version of you am I? Seeing? The question hung between us. His eyes reflected firelight, giving him an almost predatory glow. The one I show to problems that need solving, he said finally. The one that calculates cost and value and makes decisions accordingly. That's not an answer. No, he agreed. But it's all you're getting tonight. He stood, moving to the fireplace to add another log. The flames jumped higher, illuminating the scar on his face. I'd been curious about it for days. How did you get that? I asked, gesturing to the mark. His hand went to his eyebrow unconsciously. Punishment. I was 19, thought I knew better than the men who ran my father's organization. Made a decision that cost us a shipment and 2 associates. My father's enforcer gave me a choice, the scar or a bullet. I chose the scar. The casual way he said it made my chest tight. Your father sounds like a monster. He was. Constantine returned to his chair. He died 10 years ago. Heart attack, ironically. Nothing dramatic. Just stopped beating during a business dinner. He paused. I inherited his empire and spent 5 years dismantling the parts I didn't want. Turned it legitimate where I could. Kept the leverage where I couldn't. You still hurt people, when necessary. He met my eyes without flinching. I don't pretend to be good, Iris. I'm not. But I'm not needlessly cruel either. I operate by rules. Honor my agreements. Protect what's mine. I'm not yours, I said, but even I could hear how weak it sounded. You are. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, close enough that I could see the silver flecks in his blue eyes. For 3 years, you are. Unless you'd like to renegotiate our arrangement? My pulse jumped. What do you mean? I mean, there are other ways you could pay off Marcus's debt. Faster ways. His voice dropped lower, more intimate. I'm not talking about selling you. I'm talking about choosing something different willingly. Heat flooded my face. You're propositioning me. I'm stating facts. You're beautiful, intelligent, and you've been looking at me like you can't decide if you want to run or get closer. I've noticed. He smiled slightly. I notice everything about you. I should have been offended, horrified. Instead, my skin felt electric. You're insane, I whispered. Probably. He stood and held out his hand. Go to bed, Iris. Before I say something we'll both regret. I took his hand because refusing felt more dangerous than accepting. He pulled me to my feet, and suddenly we were too close. my chest inches from his, the heat of his body radiating through the space between us. "This doesn't change anything," I said. "Doesn't it?" His thumb brushed across my knuckles. "Sleep well." He released me and walked toward the stairs, leaving me standing by the dying fire. My hand tingled where he'd touched it, and I realized with growing horror that I hadn't wanted him to let go. We returned to Seattle on Thursday. Constantine deemed the threat contained the shooter in custody, the vendetta resolved. But something had shifted between us at the safe house, something neither of us acknowledged but both clearly felt. The surveillance continued, but now I recognized the watchers. Dmitri, a woman named Anya, with sharp eyes and efficient movements, others whose names I didn't know but whose presence I'd grown accustomed to. My life had restructured itself around Constantine's world. Work filled my days. I'd completed the Cascade Hotel rebrand and moved on to a new project rebranding for a chain of upscale restaurants. Legitimate work, real creative challenges. If I didn't think too hard about who was paying me, I could almost pretend this was a normal job. But then Constantine would walk through the penthouse, and normal would shatter. He'd started lingering when he returned from meetings, asking about my progress, studying my designs with genuine interest, offering feedback that was surprisingly insightful. Once, he'd stood behind my chair for 20 minutes, watching me work, his presence so intense I'd made 3 mistakes in a row. "You're distracting me," I'd finally said. "I know." But he hadn't moved. On Friday night he asked me to stay late. "There's a gallery opening," he said. "Contemporary art. Some pieces I'm considering purchasing. I need a designer's perspective." "You're asking me to go with you? Socially?" "I'm asking you to accompany me to a business function, where your professional opinion would be valuable." He paused. "Wear something elegant. I'll have Dmitri bring you a selection." 2 hours later, I stood in the penthouse bathroom staring at 3 designer dresses, each more expensive than a month's rent. I chose the simplest. Black silk, high neckline, cut that flowed to mid-thigh. When I emerged, Constantine was waiting in a black suit that made him look like sin incarnate. His eyes traveled over me slowly. Perfect. The gallery was in Capitol Hill, all white walls and dramatic lighting. People drifted between installations, champagne flutes in hand, speaking in hushed tones about artistic vision and market value. Constantine moved through the crowd like a shark through water. People parted for him, acknowledged him with nods that held equal parts respect and fear. "That one," he said, stopping in front of a massive abstract canvas, violent slashes of red and black against stark white. "What do you see?" I studied it, trying to see past the obvious violence. Rage. But controlled rage. Like whoever painted this was trying to contain something explosive. "Exactly." His hand settled at the small of my back. "Proprietary." The artist was in prison for 8 years. This was his first piece after release. We moved through the gallery, and I forgot to be uncomfortable with his touch. Forgot that he was a criminal who'd upended my life. We discussed color theory, composition, the way art could communicate what words couldn't. He listened to my opinions, with genuine interest, asked questions that showed he understood design principles. For 2 hours, I felt like an equal rather than an indentured employee. Then I saw her, a woman watching us from across the gallery, beautiful, the kind of striking Eastern European beauty that belonged on magazine covers. She wore red like a weapon, her eyes fixed on Constantine with an intensity that made my stomach twist. "Who is that?" I asked quietly. Constantine followed my gaze, and his entire body went rigid. "Excuse me." He crossed to her, and they spoke in rapid Russian. I couldn't hear the words, but I could read the body language, her anger, his cold dismissal, the way her hand reached for him, and he stepped back. When he returned, his expression was shuttered. "We're leaving." "Constantine, what?" "Now, Iris." The ride back to the penthouse was silent. Dmitri drove while Constantine stared out the window, jaw tight, hands clenched. I'd never seen him like this, not cold and controlled, but barely containing something volcanic. Back in the penthouse, he poured vodka and drank it in one swallow. "Who was she?" I asked. "No one who concerns you." "She looked at you like she wanted to kill you. Or kiss you. Maybe both." He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Svetlana, my father's choice for my wife. We were engaged once, years ago. It ended badly." "How badly?" "The kind of bad that leaves scars." He poured another drink but didn't consume it. just stared at the liquid like it held answers. She thought marrying me meant marrying into power. When I dismantled my father's empire, when I went legitimate, she saw it as betrayal. Did you love her? The question slipped out before I could stop it. Constantine's eyes snapped to mine. No, he said flatly. I thought I did, briefly. But it was just mutual ambition wearing love's mask. He set down the glass. She wanted a monster. I was trying not to be one. The vulnerability in those words gutted me. You're still trying, I said quietly. Aren't you? Every day. He moved closer, and I saw something raw in his expression. Do you know what she said to me tonight? She said you were weak, that keeping you around was sentiment making me soft. What did you say? Nothing. He was inches away now. Because anything I said would have revealed how much I think about you. How you've become something more than a debt obligation. His hand came up, cupping my face. That's dangerous, Iris. For both of us. My heart hammered against my ribs. This is insane. You're my employer. My captor, basically. I know. His thumb traced my cheekbone. Tell me to stop. Tell me this crosses a line. I should have. Every rational part of me screamed to push him away. Instead, I leaned into his touch. Iris, he breathed, and then his mouth was on mine. The kiss was everything I'd feared and wanted consuming, desperate, tasting of vodka and something darker. His hands tangled in my hair, pulling me closer, and I responded with equal hunger, months of tension and fear and unwanted attraction combusting into this single moment. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, his forehead rested against mine. This changes everything, he whispered. I know. We can't. I know. But neither of us moved away. Outside the windows, Seattle glittered with 1,000 lights, oblivious to the way my entire world had just shifted on its axis. I'd just kissed the man who owned my debt, and God help me, I wanted to do it again. We didn't speak about the kiss. For 3 days, Constantine avoided the penthouse during my work hours. Dmitri brought me in the mornings and took me home at night. But Constantine himself was absent, conducting business elsewhere, handling affairs that didn't require my design input. I told myself I was relieved. I was lying. On Wednesday, everything imploded. I was working on restaurant menu designs when my phone rang an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Iris? My blood turned to ice. Marcus? Yeah, it's me. Listen, I don't have much time. Where the hell are you? Fury erupted through me. Do you have any idea what you've done? What I'm dealing with because of you? I know. God, Iris, I know. I'm so sorry. His voice was ragged, desperate. I never meant for Volkov to involve you. I thought I could fix it before. Before what? Before you abandoned me? Before you forged my signature and disappeared like a coward? I was trying to protect you. He was nearly shouting now. Volkov's people were closing in. If I'd stayed, they would have used you to get to me. I thought if I ran, they'd follow me instead. Well, congratulations. They found me anyway. I was shaking. I'm working for him now, Marcus. 3 years of my life to pay off your debt because you were too much of a coward to face consequences. I can fix this. His voice dropped to an urgent whisper. I have something Volkov wants. Information. About a rival operation, shipping routes, contacts. If I give it to him... No. The word came out sharp. Whatever game you're playing, leave me out of it. Iris, please, meet me. Just once. Let me explain everything, and then I'll go to Volkov myself. I'll make this right. Every instinct screamed this was a trap. But underneath the anger, part of me, the part that had loved this man for 4 years, wanted answers. Where? I asked. Pike Place Market. Saturday, noon. The fish throwers. Come alone. The line went dead. I sat frozen, phone trembling in my hand. I should tell Constantine. That was the smart move, the safe move. But something held me back, maybe pride. Maybe the last stubborn remnant of my old life that wanted to face Marcus on my own terms. I made a decision I'd regret for the rest of my life. I didn't tell him. Saturday arrived gray and drizzling. I told Dmitri I was meeting a college friend for lunch, watched him drive away, then caught a rideshare to Pike Place. Market. The market was crowded, tourists and locals mixing around the fish stalls, the smell of salt and wet pavement heavy in the air. I found Marcus near the fish throwers, hood up, looking thinner than I remembered. Iris. Relief flooded his face. Thank God you came. Talk fast. I have surveillance on me. They'll notice I'm gone. Volkov's surveillance? He looked panicked. We need to move. There's a coffee shop. No. Here. Now. Whatever you have to say it. He ran a hand through his hair, looking every inch the desperate man I'd expected. I got in over my head. The cryptocurrency platform was real, but I made bad trades. Lost everything in a week. I panicked. Borrowed more from Volkov thinking I could win it back. Then I borrowed from his competitors to pay him. It was a spiral I couldn't stop. So you ran. I was trying to buy time. There are people in Prague who owed me favors. I thought I could. He stopped. It doesn't matter. I was wrong. But Iris, I found something. Information Volkov's rivals want suppressed. If I give it to him, show him I'm useful, maybe he'll forgive the debt. Or maybe he'll kill you for being stupid enough to think that would work. Will you help me arrange a meeting? You have access to him now. Please, Iris. I'm begging you. I stared at the man I'd almost married, saw the desperation in his eyes, the fear, the pathetic hope that I'd save him one more time. No, I said. You made these choices. Face them yourself. Iris, we're done, Marcus. We've been done for months. I was just too heartbroken to accept it. I stepped back. Don't contact me again. I turned to walk away. That's when I saw Konstantin. He stood 20 feet away, flanked by 2 of his security team, his face a mask of ice and fury. Our eyes met across the crowd, and the world seemed to stop. He knew. Somehow he knew. Shit, Marcus breathed behind me. Shit, shit, shit. He ran. Konstantin's men went after him, disappearing into the market crowd. But Konstantin himself walked toward me with terrifying calm, each step measured and controlled. Get in the car, he said when he reached me. Now. Konstantin, I can explain. Car, now. The ride back was silent. Dmitri drove while Konstantin sat rigid beside me, not looking at me, his jaw so tight I could see the muscle jumping. When we reached the penthouse, he grabbed my arm and pulled me into the elevator with barely contained violence. The doors closed, and he turned on me. You lied to me. His voice was deadly quiet. You received contact from Marcus and said nothing. You met with him behind my back, alone, compromising your safety and my operation. I wanted answers. Answers? He slammed his hand against the elevator wall, making me flinch. You wanted to play hero for a man who destroyed you. Do you have any idea what could have happened? What Marcus's rivals would have done if they'd followed him to you? I didn't think. No, you didn't. He was shouting now, the ice finally cracking. You risked everything, your safety, my trust, the fragile arrangement we'd built for what? Closure? Revenge? Love? I don't love him anymore. The words tore out of me. I hate him for what he did to me, but I needed to face him myself, not hide behind you. You're not hiding behind me. You're protected by me. There's a difference. He grabbed my shoulders, his grip just short of painful. When I saw you with him, saw you vulnerable in a public place, all I could think was how many ways I could lose you. How easily someone could take you from me. The raw emotion in his voice stopped my breath. Konstantin, you're mine, Iris. His eyes blazed. Not his, not anyone's. Mine. And I protect what's mine even when it makes terrible decisions. The elevator opened. He released me and walked out, leaving me shaking. Behind us, the doors closed. And I realized I'd just broken something I didn't know could break. Konstantin didn't speak to me for 2 days. I came to the penthouse, worked in silence, left when Dmitri arrived. The space between us felt like frozen tundra, vast, unbridgeable, deadly if you tried to cross it. On the 3rd day, everything shattered. I was working late, trying to lose myself in color palettes, when I heard shouting from the locked room, Konstantin's private study. Then a crash, something heavy hitting the floor. My heart seized. Against every instinct of self-preservation, I ran toward the sound. The door was partially open, someone had forgotten to close it properly in their rush. Through the gap, I could see Konstantin on the floor, 2 men standing over him. Blood streaked his face. I didn't think. I screamed. The men whirled toward me. One started forward, but Konstantin moved like lightning despite his injuries. A brutal kick to the knee, a fist to the throat. The first man went down hard. The second pulled a gun. Time seemed to slow. I saw Konstantin's eyes widen. Saw him calculate angles and odds. Saw him realize he wouldn't make it. Then Dmitri was there, emerging from somewhere I hadn't seen, his own weapon drawn. 2 shots controlled, precise. The gunman dropped. Silence fell like ash. Konstantin rose slowly, wiping blood from his mouth. His eyes found mine, and something terrible passed between us, acknowledgement of how close I'd come to watching him die. "Get her out of here," he told Dmitri. "No." My voice was steadier than I felt. "No, I'm not leaving. Iris, you're bleeding. Let me help." For a moment, I thought he'd refuse. Then something in his expression crumbled, and he nodded once. Dmitri dealt with the bodies, don't think about the bodies, while I led Konstantin to the bathroom. He sat on the edge of the tub, and I wet a cloth with shaking hands. "Who were they?" I asked, dabbing at the cut on his eyebrow. "Remnants from my father's old organization. They think I've gone soft, that I've betrayed what he built." He winced as I cleaned the wound. "They're not entirely wrong." "About betraying him?" "About going soft." His eyes met mine. "I would have killed them both 3 years ago. Tonight," I hesitated. Wondered if there was another way to resolve things. "That's not soft. That's human. In my world, human is the same as soft, and soft gets you killed." He caught my wrist as I reached to clean another cut. "You shouldn't have screamed. You shouldn't have drawn their attention. They were going to kill you. Better me than you." The words were simple, devastating. "Do you understand that? If something happened to you because of me, because of my world, I wouldn't survive it." My breath caught. "Konstantin, I'm in love with you." The confession came out raw, unguarded. I know I shouldn't be. I know it's insane and dangerous and completely inappropriate given our arrangement. But watching you walk into danger at the market, seeing those men tonight with you in the next room, I can't pretend anymore. The cloth dropped from my fingers. "You can't love me," I whispered. "You don't believe in love." I didn't. Then you showed up in my world, angry and terrified and so goddamn brave. You look at me like I'm a monster, but also like I might be something more. You challenge me, make me want to be better. His hand came up, cupping my face with heartbreaking gentleness. "You've destroyed every defense I built." Tears burned my eyes. "This is impossible. You're my employer. You own my debt. I'll forgive it." The words tumbled out. "All of it. Tonight. You're free, Iris. Walk away. Start over. Forget this ever happened." "Just like that?" "Just like that." His thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. "Because keeping you here, forcing you to stay, it's killing something in me. I want you to choose this. Choose me. Not because you're obligated, but because you want to." My heart was hammering so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. "And if I walk away?" Pain flickered across his face. "Then I'll let you go. Have Dmitri drive you home, transfer enough money to restart your life, and never contact you again." He paused. "But before you decide, I need you to know I will spend the rest of my life protecting you. Whether you're with me or not, whether you love me or hate me, you're mine to protect now. That doesn't change." I looked at this man, this beautiful, dangerous, impossible man who'd upended my entire life, who'd started as my captor and become something I couldn't name, who looked at me like I was precious and terrifying in equal measure. "I should walk away," I said. "Probably. This is insane. You're a criminal. I don't belong in your world." "No," he agreed. "You deserve better. I should hate you for everything you've done." "Yes. But I don't." The words came out broken. "God help me, I don't. I think about you constantly, dream about you. When you avoided me for 2 days, it felt like I couldn't breathe. And tonight, seeing that, gun pointed at you, He kissed me before I could finish. It was different from the first time, less desperate, more devastating. His hands were gentle, despite the violence still clinging to the air around us. He kissed me like I was something sacred, something worth dying for. When we broke apart, I was crying. "Stay," he whispered against my lips. "Not as an employee, not as an obligation. Stay, because you choose this. Choose me. If I stay, everything changes. Everything already changed." He pulled back enough to meet my eyes. "I'm offering you a choice, Iris. The first real choice you've had since I walked into your life. What do you want? I thought about my old life, safe, predictable, empty. Thought about Marcus's betrayal, about 3 years of indentured servitude, about all the reasons I should run as far and fast as I could. Then I looked at Constantine's face, bruised and bleeding and heartbreakingly open. I want to stay. I breathed. I choose you. His smile was like dawn breaking. Thank God. He kissed me again. And this time when his hands moved over me, there was promise in the touch. Claim and surrender intertwined. Come to bed, he murmured against my neck. Let me show you what it means to be mine. I let him lead me from the bathroom, past the evidence of violence, into his bedroom where everything I knew about myself would change, and I didn't look back. His bedroom was dark, intimate, nothing like the stark minimalism of the rest of the penthouse. Deep blue walls, a massive bed with soft linens, windows overlooking the city lights. Constantine closed the door behind us, and suddenly the space felt weighted with possibility. Are you sure? He asked, standing in the center of the room, giving me space to change my mind. In answer, I closed the distance between us and kissed him. He responded with a hunger that had been building for weeks, hands tangling in my hair, pulling me closer, kissing me like I was air and he'd been drowning. I fumbled with his shirt buttons, needing to feel skin, needing to map the geography of this man who'd become everything. When his shirt fell away, I saw the story of violence written on his body scars that crisscrossed his ribs, a bullet wound near his shoulder, marks that spoke of a life spent surviving. I traced them with trembling fingers. You've been through so much, I whispered, and lived to tell about it. He caught my hand, pressed it over his heart. Feel that? You make it beat differently. He undressed me slowly, reverently, like I was something precious that might break. When we finally came together, skin against skin, it felt like combustion and homecoming simultaneously. The first time was urgent, desperate months of tension finding release. The second was slower, exploratory, learning what made the other gasp and surrender. By the third, as dawn began painting the sky in shades of rose and gold, it was something else entirely. Love. Complicated, messy, impossible love. Afterward, we lay tangled together, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy patterns on my shoulder. I need to tell you something, Constantine said quietly, about the locked room, about what I really do. I lifted my head to look at him. Okay, most of my business is legitimate now. The hotels, restaurants, real estate all clean. But there are parts of my father's organization I couldn't dismantle. Protection services for businesses the police won't help. Mediation between criminal factions. Sometimes, violence, when it's the only language people understand. You're still Mafia, I said, not a question. Yes, a reformed version maybe. But yes, his eyes searched mine. That room you saw tonight? It's where I handle things that can't be made legitimate. Debts like Marcus's, conflicts that require force. I keep it separate from everything else, but it's still part of who I am. Why are you telling me this now? Because if you stay, really stay, you need to understand all of it. The danger, the moral complexity, the fact that I'll always have enemies. His hand cupped my face. I can protect you. I will protect you. But I can't make this life safe. I thought about everything I'd seen, everything I'd learned, about the man who'd started as my captor and revealed himself in layers, monster and protector, criminal and businessman, brutal and heartbreakingly gentle. I'm not naive enough to think loving you will be easy, I said, but I'm choosing it anyway. His smile was brilliant. Then there's one more thing. He reached for the nightstand and pulled out a small box. Inside was a key. The locked room, he said. It's yours too now. No secrets between us. I took the key, feeling its weight. What about Marcus? We found him this morning. He's being held at a property outside the city. My stomach twisted. Are you going to kill him? No. Constantine's expression was serious. I'm going to offer him a choice. Work off his debt. Legitimately, I have businesses that need management. Things he's actually qualified for. If he agrees and follows through, he lives and eventually walks away clean. If he refuses or betrays me again... He didn't finish. You'd do that? Give him a chance after everything? I'm doing it for you. His fingers traced my jawline. You deserved better than how he treated you. Better than how I initially treated you. This is me trying to be the man you make me want to be. Tears burned my eyes again. I love you. I know it's crazy and too fast and probably a terrible idea. But I love you. I love you too. He pulled me down for a kiss that tasted of promise. And we have all the time in the world to figure out how crazy this is. We stayed in bed as morning light filled the room, talking about everything: his childhood in Russia, my college years, the lives we'd lived before fate tangled us together. He told me about his father's empire and how he'd worked to transform it. I told him about my design dreams and the art I'd always wanted to create. Eventually, we rose and showered together in intimacy that felt almost more vulnerable than what came before. He dressed in casual clothes, and I borrowed one of his shirts, the fabric swallowing me. In the kitchen, he made coffee and eggs while I sat on the counter, watching him move through domestic routines that seemed at odds with the dangerous man I knew he was. "What happens now?" I asked. "Now?" He handed me coffee. "Now we live. You design. I run my businesses. We figure out how to build something real in the middle of all this chaos." "And the debt?" "Forgotten. Erased. You don't owe me anything, Iris." He stepped between my legs, his hands on my thighs. "Except maybe your honesty, your trust, your presence in my life for as long as you'll give it to me. That's a lot more valuable than money." "I know." He kissed me softly. "That's why I'm asking." Through the windows, Seattle was waking up, a city full of people living ordinary lives, unaware that in this glass tower, something extraordinary was being built from the ruins of betrayal and debt. I wrapped my arms around Constantine's neck, feeling his heartbeat against mine. "I'm not going anywhere," I whispered. "Promise?" "Promise." And in that moment, surrounded by morning light and possibility, I meant it. 3 months later, spring arrived in Seattle with cherry blossoms and rain-washed streets. I stood in the penthouse workspace, my workspace now, officially putting finishing touches on a website for Constantine's newest acquisition. Through the windows, the city sparkled with April sunshine, Elliott Bay, reflecting fragments of sky. The past 3 months had been a study in contradictions. I'd moved into the penthouse officially, my tiny apartment sublet to a graduate student who appreciated the low rent. My belongings had migrated slowly: art supplies, favorite books, the concert posters that now decorated our bedroom wall. Our bedroom. The phrase still made me catch my breath. Constantine's world had opened to me in ways I'd never anticipated. I'd met his legitimate business partners, sat through meetings where my design input actually mattered, learned that his empire was more complex than I'd imagined. The criminal elements existed. I wasn't naive about that, but they were compartmentalized, handled by people like Dmitri, who lived in shadows I rarely saw. Marcus had accepted Constantine's offer. He was managing a restaurant in Portland now, working legitimate hours for legitimate pay, slowly chipping away at what he owed. We'd spoken once, briefly, when he'd called to apologize. I'd accepted the apology but declined further contact. That chapter of my life was closed. This chapter, the one where I lived with a reformed Mafia boss and designed brands for his business empire, was strange enough without adding ex-fiancé drama. "You're thinking too hard." Constantine's voice came from behind me. I turned to find him leaning in the doorway, tie loosened, jacket slung over his shoulder. He looked tired but content, the hard edges I'd first known softened by months of something approaching happiness. "Just reflecting," I said. "It's been quite a journey." "Regrets?" He moved closer, that predatory grace I'd learned to recognize. "About you?" "Never." I reached up to straighten his collar. "About the circumstances that brought us together? Sometimes. But I can't regret where we ended up." He caught my hand, pressed a kiss to my palm. "I have something for you." From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. My heart stuttered. "Constantine, it's not what you think." He opened it to reveal a key different from the one he'd given me months ago, more ornate. "The house. The safe house where we first." He smiled slightly. "Where things changed between us. I've been renovating it, turning it into something more permanent." I stared at the key, at his face. "Why?" "Because that's where I first realized I was in love with you, where you chose to stay despite having every reason to run." He pressed the key into my hand. "I want it to be ours, a place away from the city, away from business and obligations. Just us." Tears prickled my eyes. "You're too good at surprise gifts." "I have months of making up to do." His expression grew serious. "For how we started, for the fear and coercion, and—" I stopped him with a kiss. "We've been through this. You've more than made amends." "Have I?" His hand came up to cut my face, thumb brushing my cheekbone in that gesture I'd come to crave. You gave up 3 years of freedom for a debt that wasn't yours. I can never fully repay that. You freed me from it. From all of it, the debt, the guilt, the shadow of Marcus's betrayal. You gave me work I love, a life I never imagined, and I paused, gathering courage. And love I didn't think I deserved after everything. Iris. He said my name like a prayer. You deserved better than all of this. Better than me. No. I was firm. I deserved exactly this. Someone who sees me completely, the broken parts and the strong parts, and chooses me anyway. Someone who fights his own darkness to be better. That's you. He kissed me then, slow and deep, and I tasted what words couldn't express: gratitude and love, and the peculiar redemption we'd found in each other. When we broke apart, he rested his forehead against mine. Move in with me at the house, officially. Make it ours. I already live with you. Here. Yes. But the house. That's different. That's choosing a future beyond business arrangements and past debts. That's choosing me in a place that has nothing to do with how we started. I thought about the safe house in the trees, about rain on the windows and firelight, and the moment I'd first admitted I didn't hate him. Thought about the months since waking up beside him, learning his scars and secrets, building something real from impossible. Foundations. Yes, I said. Let's make it ours. His smile was brilliant, unguarded in ways I rarely saw. We'll go this weekend. Bring Galena. Make it feel like home. That night, we had dinner on the penthouse terrace, something we'd started doing when weather allowed, stealing moments of normalcy between the chaos of his business life. Dimitri had picked up Thai food from our favorite place, and we ate straight from the containers, feet propped on the railing, watching the sun set fire to the Olympics across the Sound. I need to tell you something, I said, setting down my pad thai. Constantine looked over, immediately alert. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. The opposite, actually. I took a breath. I've been talking to some gallery owners about showing my art, the personal work, not the commercial designs. His expression shifted to something fierce and proud. Iris, that's amazing. It's terrifying. What if I'm not good enough? What if you're brilliant? He took my hand. Your work is stunning. If anyone can't see that, they're fools. You're biased. Completely. But I'm also right. He squeezed my fingers. When's the show? July. A small gallery in Pioneer Square. Nothing major, just, it's major to you. That makes it major. He pulled me closer, tucking me against his side. I'll be there. Front row. Probably buying half the pieces. You can't buy my own art and give it back to me. Watch me. I laughed, feeling light in ways I'd forgotten were possible. How is this my life now? Good question. His lips brushed my temple. How did a debt collection turn into the best thing that ever happened to me? Luck? Fate. He tilted my face toward his. I don't believe in much, Iris, but I believe we were meant to find each other, even if the circumstances were fucked up and morally questionable. Very fucked up, I agreed. Extremely morally questionable. But worth it? I looked at this man, this complicated, dangerous, heartbreakingly gentle man, who'd turned my destruction into salvation. Thought about the future spreading before us like an unwritten page. Worth everything, I whispered. He kissed me as the last light bled from the sky, the city coming alive with stars below us. Somewhere in Seattle, Marcus was building a new life from the wreckage of his mistakes. Somewhere, Constantine's enemies plotted and schemed, threats that would always exist on the periphery of our lives. Somewhere, the world continued spinning with all its chaos and beauty. But here, on this terrace in a glass tower above the Sound, we'd built something impossible: love from leverage, partnership from coercion, hope from the ashes of betrayal. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple. But it was ours. And as Constantine carried me to bed that night, as we made love with the city lights painting shadows across his scarred skin, I understood something fundamental. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best, things we never knew we needed. Sometimes debt becomes devotion. Sometimes the monster turns out to be the hero after all. And sometimes, just sometimes, love finds you in the last place you'd ever think to look. In the arms of the man who was supposed to destroy you, but chose to save you instead.